Broadcast live.
Hey, what's up? My name is Spoken Priestess, in case for some odd reason you may not have known. And I'm hanging out with the girls call him Zaddy because of his song. Yes, they do! I saw your videos! Because of your song Tatako, and the girls were like, good shot. Now we're seeing all these videos, and Yanga is literally the father of the nation right now. How are you doing, Papa?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm happy to see you.
I'm happy to be here. It's my first time on the couch. Long overdue.
A lot of people sit here for the first time, so it's okay.
Really? So once a year you can't
Pretty
come
much.
back, or?
You can.
Oh.
It's up to you.
Okay.
You know, people ask, and I'm like,
Yeah.
sure. Well, actually, not everyone. Depends. Please don't get excited. Really good to see you out and about, actually speaking to people, because there was a moment or a while where you were not saying anything.
Yeah.
Didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what happened?
I'm not sure what moment that is.
Like was it this past year? Yeah, like this past year.
Yeah.
Before Touch My Blood dropped and Utatako obviously dropped.
Yeah.
You went kind of quiet.
Yeah, I think just goes back to the old saying, like, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all.
Is that really true though, when you're an artist per se? I mean, we kind of like have expectations for you to say something every once in a while.
I've never really prescribed to like what artists are supposed to do and be like, I think, my thing is just I've always tried to be myself, even being an artist, and before I was an artist, I'm trying to hold on to like the same Yanga Chief that existed, so sometimes I might do things, according to Yanga, and it doesn't make sense for Yanga Chief, but I always choose Yanga because there wouldn't be a Yanga Chief without me. So if I feel a certain type of way about something, and I feel like the best way to move forward is to just stay positive and focus on myself, whether that means going back into the dungeon, so to speak, and working on my music and myself as a person, then that's what I'm going to do, irrespective of where I am in my career and what actually people are expecting from me,
Does something prompt you to go back into the dungeon to work on yourself? Because the more and more I talk to people, I'm starting to see like a sort of, I wouldn't say pattern, but the older you get in this industry, you start to want to make a bigger effort to go into the dungeon and look after yourself. Is it that you leave the man behind as you chasing whatever you seem to chase as an artist? Like, what's your experience?
For me, I think what's most important is mental health, I feel like I've done everything, and I mean, I guess like a lot of people maybe haven't been paying attention, but I've been like through every single thing. I've experienced it firsthand, or like maybe going through it with someone else, etc. So you get to a place where you want to protect yourself from going through the same things over and over again. And you actually take stock of what you have, and you try and plan ahead as opposed to just going through the motions every day. I don't know when that point comes, or if it does come to every single person, but for me it's like I need to look back and think, okay, I've been playing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for however many years, and from where I'm sitting, this is where it's going to end up, and should it end up there, will I be happy? So my thing is really just like happiness at the end of it all. Like, I'm over being that guy in that moment, now the time is now, I'm not really about that anymore, I'm about the long-term solution, like for myself. Like, I want to have a family, I want to have a house, I want to mean something to my community in Queenstown. I want to do something for other people, I want to be an example, So it's not really just about having the flyest whip or being with the flyest girls anymore, Yeah, so that's actually what the focus is really around.
Let's talk about going back home. I love that you mentioned the importance of you wanting to actually do something for your community. Your relationship with the North, these past few years, you've been, North Side, and now it's Kumbudekara, What was going on there? And it's not to say that, there's there's anything wrong with, you know, affiliating yourself with the North. You have these relationships, these are your people. But I mean, in the past 2-3 years where you were North Side living or whatever the case may have been, one, what was that? How did that affiliation come about? And two, how did the people, your Xhosa community or your Queenstown community, receive that kind of affiliation? Because I know Xhosas are very territorial, you know. So those two, the affiliation, how did it come about, and how your people seeing that?
I think to put that in context, like in Queenstown, I'm not like from the hood in Queenstown, you know. I stayed in the north in Queenstown. Unfortunately, it's just that like we were like the poorest household there because we stayed in town before, and then my dad bought this big house in the north, and then he passed on, and then my mom was stuck having to pay for this house that she can't afford, you know. So we had to make sacrifices and things like that, which is how I ended up actually in Joburg, because my mom couldn't pay for varsity because she had to pay for her other son, and I had to wait. And then I came here, I forced issues and got into varsity and did my own thing from there. That's where I got my independence from. But generally, like in terms of location wise, I always from the north. So it started like in Queenstown in the Eastern Cape. I was always like viewed as that like bougie like cheese boy, you know. But what kept me grounded, I guess, was the fact that if you're from town in the Eastern Cape, like every single holiday you go back to your like rural areas, you know, and you do all your traditional things. So I've always had that side of me, and I've always understood that, but I've always been the flyest guy in the room in my head, you know what I'm saying? So it's not new. So that's how I connected with the North and the whole movement and the style and whatever. Not really the North, but certain people that are in the North, like Les and Keenan and whoever, you know. So I get along with those people, it makes sense. But that's the same reason I get along with Aquesta and the Kid X and whoever, because in Queenstown, I used to spend all my time in the hood. Every time I left school, I went to my homie's place in the hood first, and then I'd walk all the way back to the north. That was my routine, you know. So I know both sides, and you can even hear it in the music, you know. It's just like very hard to explain, because I feel like I might be some kind of anomaly, you know, where both sides actually play a big role to the whole picture, you know. And it was important for me to even show that side of myself where I am in the north and I'm comfortable in that space, because if I was just like going for the whole hood situation, it wouldn't add up, you know. It would be like, yeah, but he's too bougie though, you know what I mean? Like he's too, so I'm like straight down the middle, you know, and that was what was going on in that time. And I was comfortable in it, and what made me realize that, you know, actually, let me do more of my Queenstown type of style and my music. It's just that I missed it so much, you know. I was like in the north so much that I missed it. Like I was like, I missed the times I would spend in K1 with Questa, days on end, you know, sleeping at his friend's place, and them niggas like held me down. So, you know, like for me, it's just all natural, you know, behavioral patterns on my side, you know. I can only see it after and say, yeah, I was actually in the north for quite a while,
Yeah.
You know.
Let's talk about your sound influences. There are some people that know you before the artist, including myself, and I was shook when you came out with a song. I was like, wait, what? Kanjani, you know. That, I don't want to say transition, but I would just say transition for other people's sake, not for your sake. That transition from, you know, young legends, that guy behind the lens, that guy, the creative, to actually I'm comfortable enough now to actually present my music to people. How do you get comfortable to do that? I mean, we all have hidden talents. Maybe I can, I don't know, rap or do whatever, and then there's a certain time when you're like, I'm gonna do it now. You know, that transition from being that guy that's not really seen to that guy that's kind of taking his place where he wants to be. How was that for you?
Well, I think it's important to note that the whole film thing actually bombed out. You know, it was not a success. You know, like, yeah, like, okay, we won Metro Awards, you know, we had shot dope videos, you know, that were important and people love them, you know, till today. But it didn't work out for me personally on a financial perspective. For my company, Young Legend Films, like that crashed, you know, and I found myself back in square one where I was like literally couch to couch in Joburg City, you know, and you know, I remembered like, you know, I actually came to Joburg to become an artist, you know, and I fell in love with film along the way. And my purpose is not to be a big filmmaker, you know, my purpose is to make music. So I had a conversation with myself and God, and I said, I am just going to commit myself fully to music. I don't know how I'm going to do it because, you know, I don't even know I'm going to sleep tomorrow, but, you know,
And figure it out.
we're going to figure it out. Me and God, we're going to figure this out as long as I commit myself to this gift that He has given me. And I go back to the reason I came to Joburg in the first place, you know, which wasn't to be behind the camera, which was to be in front of the camera, you know. So that was how the transition happened. I never looked back since. For me, taking out music was expected from my side. It was normal because, like, it's not like I was shooting a movie or something,
Yeah.
you know, I wasn't, you know, and people hadn't heard from me in a while. There was an actual gap of maybe like a year or two where I just completely gone off the scene. So coming back and doing music was something I was always comfortable with because I used to stay behind, you know, at the ventilation offices, and I would pretend I'm going home and let Slick and them leave, and then I'd stay behind and I'd jump in the studio and record myself, you know, till today. That's how I know how to record my own music in my house. Most of my EP and my album was recorded in my lounge, you know. So those are small things that contributed to the whole bigger picture. I didn't just run in and start from scratch. I had already been working on my craft throughout my film career.
And your sound, I can't box it. And yes, you love that. I can't box it. You know, I'm sitting here trying to pull out all the subgenres and
It's only gonna
piece
get
it
worse for
together,
you.
and I'm just like, actually, there's no description for it. But the influences, obviously, Kwaito is a very big one. One of
Yeah.
your big influences, and then you get some folk. You know, your folk influences. Is that intentional? A lot of your songs and the presence that you have, even on the features that you've been doing, there's that Yanga thing. Like, he's there, and it's got a lot of folk in it, like traditional. You know, the hymns, the harmonies that would remind you of back home. Is that intentional?
I wouldn't say it's intentional, man. I like to strip myself down in front of a beat, you know, and go where it takes me, like in my head or in my heart. So I always tell myself that mine is not to be like lauded as the king of anything like Xhosa rap or what, or, you know, I have no desire or intention to hold any of those titles. Mine is to serve, because I see it as a calling. My grandfather was a priest. He was the first shop owner in his village. He was a traditional healer. So I remember I was asking my mom the other day, like on Saturdays, I remember there used to be like long queues outside the house, you know, and he'd be grating like bark and like chopping like all these things. People would come with 2 liters to get like ears. And I asked my mom what was going on. They said, no, your grandfather was a traditional healer, and he was most loved for being able to heal cancer, you know. So that was his thing in the village. And then on Sundays, the same guy would dress up in his priest, like Wesile regalia, and he'd be out there in church for hours. I'd be bored, you know. I'd be like, how does this guy do all these different things? And then during the week, he's a shop owner. You know, everyone is buying in the shop and whatever. So for me, it's not to decide, Yanga, are you this type of rapper, or are you a singer, or are you film? You know, like for me, it's like it's a calling in the sense that mine is to serve, right? When you listen to my music, right, you are supposed to take whatever you need from it to be the best you can be at whatever you do. You understand? It's not for me to decide for you, like, this song is for Queenstown people, this song is for Joburg people, and this song is for such and such people. You listen to the music as a listener. You take what you want from it. If you're going through abuse, if you're going through work problems, if you're going through relationship issues, whatever, for that moment that you heard that song, it's supposed to help you get through that moment. And it's not for me to sit in front of a mic and decide, no, I don't want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, right? If I'm in front of the mic and I'm listening to the beat and this thing comes in me, and now we have an Afro-pop song instead of this big trap joint that I came to record, I'm not going to delete that Afro-pop song and I'm not going to give it to anybody else. I'm going to put it there as my contribution to the world, you know. So I don't know how to box myself either. I don't want to box myself. So you're not alone. Me too.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes from somewhere else. And I just accept it and I run with it.
When we get into the business of, you know, our passion, it's not always fun. That part is not always fun. It's so much easier to just bleed on the mic and just do what you were called to do. And then you have to sell the music and maybe push it, because at some point you have to pay the rent, so you need to do a gig here and there.
100%.
You've gone through so many phases of your career from the beginning, even with your different projects. There's been specific elements that were specific to that time in your life, and then now you're at this place where you just gave us Neighbourhood Genius, which was incredible, by the way. Wait, why did you not push that? Did you just put it out to put it out, or?
What happened there was we had just come from the relationship with F2D, where it was a collaboration. I remember it was very complicated, but it was just a collaboration of the labels. And then that ended abruptly, right? So the first thing I did, I was like, okay, that means that it's just Young Legend music on its own right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to drop a project and then I'm going to figure it out, you know. So there was never really a plan to push it like that. It was just a situation like I'd been speaking about dropping an album the whole year, and now it looked like it was never going to happen. And I know, like, if I have to start from scratch in terms of like the push, the marketing, the labels and the this, the that, nothing was gonna happen for me that year. So it was like a throwaway project, and fortunately enough, like, it was good enough for people to accept as a non-album and just bump and wait until like we actually do the right things. But yeah, man, like, making the music is one thing and selling it is a whole new different ballgame.
I mean, what lessons have you picked up in the different relationships that you've been in? You know, you've walked alongside the likes of the Slickers, the Sugar Snackses. You know, you've been with the F2Ds. You've been with the Beam groups at some point. What are some of the lessons that you're picking up for yourself? Because you're an independent artist, and I think you always will be, regardless of which relationship you may, you know, fall into commercially. But what are some of the lessons that you're picking up for yourself in the business of selling your stuff?
I think, you know, the game, it changes overnight, you know. What works today, like, you can be working on something for 6 months and with the perfect strategy that has worked for people for the last 3 years, and then 6 months time, it's time to drop your thing and everything has changed. The people at the offices have changed. It's just very, very complicated, you know. And I was having an argument with Nota. I argue with him like every day, you know. He doesn't like anything I'm doing. He didn't want me to drop Tatako. He didn't want me to drop anything. He's like, yo, there's songs on the album that will have way more impact. And I'm like, I'm not ready to drop an album right now, you know. I still need to just shake things up a bit, you know, and like just oil my machines. So I've just literally focused on the team around me and the people that are around me right now. And once, you know, we've dropped Becoming a Popstar EP, you know, then we'll be able to sit in those boardrooms and actually be taken seriously, you know. Because right now you're going into a boardroom as the guy on Giga or the guy that did this with so and so and so and so. So this period is just actually about doing something for myself, you know, and building my own equity, so that when I walk into a boardroom and I say, I think you and I could do great things with my next project, then I'm taken seriously. And I think that is one of the things that I've learned. Like, you're not going to get props for helping other people become whatever they were destined to become, you know. So sometimes you got to be a little bit selfish, you know. And that's the nature of business, especially in this country. And but most importantly, relationships, man. The nurturing of relationships is everything.
Broadcast live